Hey guys, my name is Zebas and this is Dave. Dave is my sourdough starter, and today I'm gonna show you how I make pretty easy sourdough. For the week, Dave lives in a fridge, so I only need to feed him before I actually make bread. So Friday night I'm taking Dave out of the fridge, and this is Saturday morning. He is back to room temperature, so perfect to start. All you need is a half a cup of sourdough starter and a half a cup of water and 1 cup of flour. I use bread flour. I used to use all-purpose flour, it's okay, but I like bread flour a little bit more. Anyways, I put half a cup in a little bit water so it actually cleans up a little bit nicer afterwards. Then I put the sourdough starter in a bowl. In a glass bowl is usually the best, I think. You add a half a cup of water and 1 cup of flour. Also, Dave needs to be very fat with the same amount. I just put a half a cup of water in it and 1 cup of flour and mix it nice up. The best what I found so far to mix it up a little bit is just with a fork. This one just get a little bit mixed. You don't need usually to add water or anything. Sometimes a little bit thicker, sometimes it's a little bit thinner. I'm not seeing a difference between if it's a little bit thicker or a little bit thinner for the recipe what I'm doing or what I found out the easiest for me is. And like I said, I make 4 breads this weekend because somebody would ask me if I can make an extra bread for them, so I just, make a couple more. It's not a bad thing, but usually 1 starter, 1 ball like this is enough for 2 loaves. Of course, if you make 1 loaf only, then you only need half of it. And then you mix your sourdough starter. Again, just refeeding it so it will be nice and active, and then it can go back in the fridge and can stay for a week in the fridge, or if you leave it on the counter you have to feed it every day. I personally like my sourdough starter a little bit thicker, and it always actually activates really nice, and it's always really nice. Alright, let's cover up everything, and like I said, it's Saturday morning. Let it sit for the day, get it activated nicely so we can actually start the bread Saturday night or Saturday late afternoon. I put a little bit time lapse in how everything is actually activating so you can see that. Alright guys, let's make some bread. So for my recipe, like I said before, it's for 2 loaves. I use 1100 grams of flour. I use bread flour, like I said before. I used to have all-purpose flour, and it's totally fine. You also can mix it after a while when you played around with it a little bit with it and make half-half. I did half bread flour, half whole multigrain, for example, or something else. Multigrain is actually really nice. But yeah, let's start with about 1100 grams. Then what I like to do is I use 700 grams of water. It usually works really well out that you don't need too much more water, much more flour, but about 700 grams of water is usually perfect. Then in the water, what I do is I like to put the starter actually into the water and not into the flour. Lots of people or lots of other ones I've seen before, they like to put it actually into the flour and they make little pieces and mix it in the flour. I found the easiest way for myself to put for this recipe about 180, 200 gram, it can be 220, 230, it really doesn't make much of a difference, I think. So let me know if there's anything why it needs to be maybe a certain amount or not, but I put around 200 grams in and I always think it's worked out perfect. And the last thing what you have to put in is salt. What I like to put in is about 5 teaspoons, but I really make it like I feel. I usually just pour some in my hand and just put it in, but it's about 5 teaspoons, so try it out and see if you like it or not, and then you can change it if you want more or if you want less, of course. Then I take just a whisk and mix the flour very well with the salt in it, so the salt is going to be everywhere for once, and the other one, the flour, will be nice and fluffy when I put the water in with the sourdough starter. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the sourdough in the water. I'm just going to mix it nicely. Get it really nice integrated into the water so I can actually start mixing it into the flour and make dough. So what I like to do, I like to take a wooden spoon, and so I mix all the water with the sourdough starter into the flour, and then I take the wooden spoon and just mix it first, so I have a start a little bit and not trying to get my fingers or whatever in the whole water, and it's all messy all between your fingers and everywhere, and it's always a mess. So I try to use a wooden spoon just to get started somewhere, like you see what I'm doing here right now. So I put the glove on so I don't have to clean up so much later. It's a little bit easier just to get rid of the glove. Anyways, yeah, so you see I take a little bit of a dough from the spoon off to make it easier to clean then. And then we're digging in with a hand. We don't need to do much, pretty much only till the flour is gone and everything is one nice dough. Like I said before, the recipe by itself is pretty close. Most of the times you don't need some. If it's a little bit thinner, it's okay. And I make it quite thick, how you're gonna see here, not the traditional thin sourdough what you folding a few times. You don't need to. It's just getting rid of the flour, integrate everything, knead it a little bit around. It takes a few minutes, but not too long. Not too long. You can see here now that pretty much everything is gone, and it's one quite thick sourdough, but again, I like it. I'm happy with it. It turns out always really, really nice. Now we're gonna cover it and put it on side for another hour, and then we just fold it a couple more times or mix it a couple more times, and that's it. You don't need to. I personally think to get a couple lumps out here and there is just nicer. Here's just a small time lapse what happened pretty much in 1 hour, 1.5 hour, like between 1 and 2 hours. It's up to you. This is about an hour and a half later. Like I said, leave it an hour, leave it 2 hours is fine too. So just take a little bit water, open it up, put your fingers a little bit in water so they are well, just a little bit wet. It's just easier with your hands, you don't need to clean up, you're not being stuck to the dough. But you can see how different the dough already is. And what I just do, I just fold the last little bit flour into it, fold it a couple times and just make a nice sourdough out of it, and so it can actually rest overnight. See on the end, I just like to have, personal me, I like to have the opening on the bottom. You can see how nice the dough actually is already, and now it's ready for resting for the whole night. Okay, now we can wrap it up and we can let it sit on the counter overnight. So it's Saturday night and Sunday we're gonna bake bread. Alright guys, it's Sunday morning. I'm gonna prep up my Dutch ovens. Gonna get them ready for the dough. Like I said, the sourdough was rising overnight. Sunday morning, I always like to put parchment paper in my pots, so it's a little bit easier, doesn't stick to anything, and easy to take out. It's just, in my opinion, better. So I just cut them a little bit bigger than the pot is, put a couple slices in so it fits perfectly actually inside, and then the bread can go inside too. So see it fits pretty easy, and then you're gonna do that with the other pot as well, and that's it. To shape a bread, I try to make it as simple as possible for myself. So I'm gonna take a little bit flour to flour the surface so it doesn't stick to it. I like to have a little bit flour to work with, it is easier. So I put the whole bread on top of it. And then what I like to do, because I got two different Dutch ovens, a longer one and a round one, so I make two different sizes from dough. I make one a little bit bigger than the other one. The smaller one is for my round one, and the bigger one is for my oval one. So you can see that I just play around a little bit with flour, then I literally just fold it a little bit together, get a little bit air in between, stick the bottom together, and then what you're gonna see me to do is I just take the scraper and I scrape it underneath back and forth a little bit and even with my hand just stick it together, the bottoms, so it's nice and tight, and you're building the ball and you're making it really smooth, a smooth skin actually on top, and the flour helps a little bit, so you put a little bit of flour on top and then you push it a little bit back and forth to make a kind of a little skin. You can feel it, you can see it, and with a little bit practice you master it so easy, still having knots of bubbles in there and openings, not openings, like bubbles. And you see the bottom, it's all closed, a little bit flours in, you still can see the bubbles on top, and that's pretty much it for the round one. At least it's pretty simple and easy. And then you just have to place it in your Dutch oven, and then the same thing you're gonna do with the other bread. So with the other bread, the only difference is it's the oval shape. So you just make it a little bit longer. So I toss it around a little bit on the flour what's on the table by himself, and then you see me just tucking it a little bit together, and then I push it with a scraper a little bit back and forth after I tuck the bottom a little bit, so it's nice and close and it's a nice skin on top, and that's it. Nothing really bad to it. Just finish it up and you put it in a Dutch oven. You can see, like, a little bit longer, it really will rise. It will like be double when you actually stop baking it. It makes a big difference. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can see still a little bit bubbles on top, a little bit flour. It has a nice skin. So it's now it's ready to rise again. So the last rise, you can put it either in the oven or you leave it on the counter. In this time I left it actually on the counter. It was about 3 to 4 hours. You can see it actually doubled up. It's really pretty much double what it was before, and all what you have to do, or what I like to do, is I like to actually sprinkle a little bit of flour on top of it, and then we have to score it. Yeah, like I said, just sprinkle a little bit of flour. It looks nice. Then this little tiny thing I got for Christmas, and is pretty much to score the bread. You can use a sharp knife, a bread knife, or razor blade. So it's pretty much for so the bread doesn't explode on anywhere where it wants to, on the side, on the bottom, on top. You're giving the bread an opportunity where it actually expands when you're baking the bread. You will see that that's the way where it will go, where you actually score it. So then you lid's on and in the oven. The last part is the easiest part. You do not have to preheat your oven. Turn your oven on, 425 Fahrenheit. For 30 minutes. You leave it in for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, all what you have to do is taking the lid off, and you can see how nice and how big actually already the bread got in the Dutch oven by himself. So it's nice, and all what you're doing now is browning it still and baking it without the lid, so it gets nice, nice brown and crust. The crust gets really nice. Sorry about that. Alright guys, that's it. Half an hour later, 25 minutes, half an hour. It really depends how brown you like it or how black. It always depends. It's done. Take it out. You put it on a baker's rack or somewhere so it will still bake inside. You can hear crackling going on actually when you take it out. So don't cut it right away. Let it cool down by itself. Couple hours. But yeah, when you take it out, you will hear it and you can see how nice it is. It is a nice tasting, easy to make sourdough bread. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but this is how it sounds like when it comes out of an oven fresh.